Wake up for the final time in the month of May, Friday, May 31st. Welcome, Damon Bruce, Larry Krueger, here to give you the latest on the 49ers, take a little look at what else is going on around the world of sports from a Bay Area point of view, and it's great to have you here. It's been a kind of a quiet month, as most Mays are around the NFL, but, you start getting to June, that's when business starts happening. You start getting in July, you're getting closer to training camp, and the next thing you know we are just months away from getting going here. So, Larry, good morning. It's always great to see you. How you doing?
Good morning. Good morning to everybody. I'm out here in Walnut Creek, where today I believe it's going to be in the 90s.
Oof.
We're starting to hit. May turns into June, and beautiful 75 turns into 85, 90, 95, 100, and then it's like, oh, I don't know if I
That's
like
right. There are days where I complain about San Francisco's natural air conditioning, and Jillian and I live right in the fog belt. But then you drive into like 98 degree heat, and you're like, yeah, fog's not so bad. Fog's kind of like a blanket of protection, so I'll take it.
It's funny. Baseball players never seem to like the fog. But you go to a road trip to Miami, Atlanta, and St. Louis in the dead of summer, and you can't come out of SFO, and they got to be feeling great, feeling that kind of cool fog, the maritime climate. But yeah, for whatever reason, baseball players, do they mind the cold in Chicago in April, New York in April? No. Do they mind the cold in Boston in September or October? No. But man, they do not like cold weather rolling in July and August to San Francisco.
They don't. I don't know how much of that is temperature based. I've heard several major leaguers have told me that the Bay Area, this goes for Oakland and in San Francisco, it's got the hardest sky to play under for a major leaguer. Like the ball blends into this gray, overcast, foggy skies. And so maybe that's where the complaint comes from. It's really not a temperature issue, but yeah, tough summer. The coldest winter I ever spent, summer in San Francisco, the famous Mark Twain line. I don't even think he actually really said it, but we attribute it to him anyways.
Well, it's true. I mean, what's hilarious is go down to like Pier 39 or, because we did this a few weeks ago. My son's girlfriend was in town, and we wanted to like kind of show her she'd never been to San Francisco. So we decided to go on a ferry boat ride that kind of goes all throughout underneath the Golden Gate Bridge and so on and so forth. And then spend some time down in the marina and have some dinner and this and that. And it was a nice day, sunny day, but I mean, it's San Francisco is relatively cold in May. So it was sunny, but cold.
Dude, it's why all those little tchotchke shops clean up selling San Francisco sweatshirts to tourists who actually showed up thinking that they were going to California.
Right.
You're not in California. You're in San Francisco. It's a whole different ball game. So it's great to have you here. And we actually, for the first time in it feels like 3 or 4 shows, have a little news to work over. Some of it directly relates to the Niners. Others relate to the Brandon Aiyuk situation. I guess we start with Jauan Jennings, who is the headline grabber of the week out of Santa Clara. He didn't sign his restricted free agent tender. Instead, he agreed to a 2-year deal, which is akin to a 1-year extension. The contract worth $15.4 million, including $10.5 million guaranteed. I think we all vote yes on Jauan Jennings. I know that they just paid $10.5 million guaranteed to a guy who caught 19 balls last year. Is that it? Like, he didn't have many receptions. He wasn't that big. He's about as forgotten a third wide receiver as you're going to find in any sort of a passing game plan. But we all vote yes on Jauan Jennings. But I'm kind of surprised that they extended this to him with as deep of a wide receiver room that we keep talking about. So obviously, they envision Jauan Jennings not being usurped by Ricky Pearsall or Cowing or Trent Taylor here, Larry. They paid him like they're going to play him.
Well, I mean, he's been their best receiver in a lot of their biggest games. So, I mean, if they won the Super Bowl, he was the Super Bowl MVP. He's played big in big games, third in Jauan. He's got great hands. He's not afraid. He's not afraid of a big moment. And to me, this, so Kyle loves him. And I think, the one thing about Jennings, he's got elite ball skills, a huge catch radius. So he's been really good with Purdy. But now you've added other guys who can do kind of what he can do. But I think this really kind of, ends that, signals that the end is near for Debo Samuel because they're going to re-sign Aiyuk, you would think, even though their two sides remain far apart. I would imagine that gets done right before he hits the field come July. And the question now is just, are the 49ers, being totally straight with us when they say that Debo and everybody's going to be here for the year?
No, they're not.
Have they come out and even said that, really? Have they just indicated it? Or is Debo going to be moved after June 1st, which, could be tomorrow, right? I mean, I guess, or what, 2 days from now. He could get moved after June 1st, or they could hold him for the year and try to move off of him at the end of the year. But
by the way, Larry, me and my sources and I can confirm June 1st is indeed tomorrow.
Yeah. So he could be dealt anytime after June 1st at a more advantageous situation on the cap than it is pre-June 1st. So there's always that to keep in mind. But then does it make sense to trade a player the caliber of Debo Samuel in your Super Bowl window? That doesn't seem like it's like a really good idea. So we shall see. We shall see. Either Debo's going to get moved before the season, or Debo's probably involved in his final season with the Niners. He's given the Niners a lot. He's been a great player, but it looks like all indications are he's the guy who's going to get bumped.
I don't have a problem with that. I mean, I don't want it to happen, but I don't have a problem with it based on, the beatings that his body has taken. He is not, I don't think, ever played every game in a year. He probably never will. If he's not being used like a running back, his value goes from that's a lot of value to that's a good wide receiver who you want more from. You want more from. I mean, go back and just look at Debo's year last year. He didn't have too many blow you away games. He didn't.
But what was the biggest game of the year? Going into Philly and winning, and he was huge in that game.
Played well in that game. He really did. Your number one.
He's played big in a lot of big games. I mean, he played big in Super Bowl 54.
Has to have more than a big game. You know what I mean? You have to.
He was their best receiver in Super Bowl 54 in the first half. They just didn't get him the ball at all in the second half.
Right.
He was the MVP at
that's a long time ago, Larry. It's a long time ago.
Yeah, but I'm just saying. I mean, he it's not like this guy hasn't played good football. He's played good football in some big games.
He's been great, but the way that they use him no longer matches the amount of money that they paid him, and maybe that gives them, the pause on Aiyuk. They don't throw the ball quite as much as other teams do. So maybe there's going to be a philosophical change there, and they are going to throw the ball around a little bit more. Maybe Debo is the guy that gets moved. To me, the other headline of this week that really stood out is, and it's funny, I brought him up when we were talking about how much you can pay a group of wide receivers. Tyreek Hill is one of the biggest paid wide receivers in football. And I just asked, well, what about Jalen Waddle? What's Jalen Waddle making? And you said, well, he's still on his rookie deal, which he was. Well, he just got extended, right? A 3-year, $84.75 million extension, $76 million guaranteed. So we got the Miami Dolphins so leaning into two wide receivers in terms of one guy's making north of 30. The other guy is approaching 30. He's in 27, 26 a year, whatever it is.
28.2.
28.2. Thanks. I didn't have the number in front of me. It was that's kind of a new way of looking at how you pay your wide receiver room. And again, what feels abnormal today does become normal tomorrow. But that is, again, the cost of doing business with Brandon Aiyuk is only going up. It's only going up. So how they get that done, when they get that done, we did this on Wednesday. Brandon Aiyuk, blah, blah, blah. I'm tired of talking about it. It's like, get it done or don't. They'll probably wait. There'll probably be more acrimony. There'll be 2 more months of what is, rumors and handshaking and headline ringing and all that nonsense. But starters get paid. If you're a starter in the NFL right now, you're making about $20 million a year. unless you play in a non-premium position, you're the center, you're the guard. Starters are making you the fullback. Good starters make $20 million a year, every position in this league. Every position. There's no position that is immune to the $20 million price.
Colton McKivitz is making $7 million.
Well, he's the deal of the century if he's a functional starting right tackle.
I mean, my problem is not with what any of these guys are making. It's with the 49ers and when these deals are getting done. They keep making the same mistake over and over again. They waited forever on Debo Samuel. They didn't get a great year out of him when he signed. They waited an eternity for Nick Bosa. They didn't get a great Bosa year. It wasn't a vintage Bosa year. And if they wait until, late August or early September or later to pay Brandon Aiyuk, odds are he's not going to have a great year. So I don't know that I love their, it's one thing that Parag's a tough negotiator and saves them nickels here and there. That's great, but the timing of getting these signings done, I don't think has been advantageous or beneficial to the Niners in their efforts to win a championship.
I mean, I'd agree with you. There's not a lot of training camp hangover, slow start hangover that's really affected this team at the end of the year, though. I didn't see them lose an NFC title game or a Super Bowl and thought, oh man, that slow start in week 3, still haunting them. But I hear you. No, you want everyone on the same.
Would they have beaten Philly? Would they have beaten Philly if that game hadn't been in Philly? And if they're ready to roll early in the year, 2 years ago, do they have to venture out on the road? I mean, it's like anything else. It's like you got to win games, whether you win them in December or win them in September. You got to win games to get that 1 seed. The 1 seed is the ultimate prize right now. And when you look at the teams that they're going to have to face in the playoffs, Green Bay, Philadelphia, Detroit, at the top of the list, those are not necessarily easy places to play. So it might be in their best interest to get these deals done a little bit sooner and try to start a little faster, and have their crucial players actually have big time career type years in the year they sign a contract. It hasn't happened yet.
By the way, I don't know if this has happened yet. We have someone watching us right now in the air, Larry. I know we've got other continents weighing in. We got air traffic weighing in. Chef A says, Damon, hello from the friendly skies of United. Well, I know we're not sponsored by any airlines. I don't think we have to plug the airlines, but there you go. Larry, we are in the air. Birds are in the air. How about that?
Where's he going? Is this the guy going to London?
No, Chef A. This is Chef Amy. Who you met at the halfway club at Plus Mania 3, The Revenge.
She says, hello from the friendly skies of United. Wow.
Look at that. Look at that. Freaking technology is amazing. I mean, you'd gone up to 10-year-old Damon and said, you're going to be able to watch TV.
Hey, I just watched a video from the plane the other day, Chef Amy. If they ask you to help people use the emergency exit, the correct answer is yes, I will help them.
I will always help them. I will help everyone.
Or you could say no and get yourself kicked off the plane like that woman did last week. I don't know if you saw that. That was pretty entertaining.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, some woman's like, I'm not helping people if I'm getting off first. And they're like, no, you're not.
Well, let's be honest. If we have to use this emergency exit, everyone's pretty much fucked anyways, right?
Right. We're going to be getting into the Atlantic Ocean at some point. I don't know if it's a good idea.
Right. This seatbelt's not going to help me that much if we hit a mountain today. There are a lot of airplanes falling out of the sky. Thanks, Boeing. Get it right. Anyway, someone's Kenny 49er said, planes were way better when you were young, Damon. Come on. They had bars. They had smoking. Yeah, and they didn't fall out of the sky. They didn't have windows blow out in the middle of taxiing and things like that, too.
Takes us back to Die Hard 2 when the guy, reset ground level to negative 200 feet and intentionally crashed that plane of people headed to London. He was a mean, villainous character.
The bad guy.
The bad
guy is the guy
Hard 2.
Around with very nice call and reference of Die Hard 2. That is correct. Yeah. That is the one in the airport.
If you had to watch a Die Hard again, would you go Die Hard, LA, Nakatomi Plaza? Would you go Die Hard 2? They're taking over the skies over Dulles, or would you go Die Hard with a Vengeance?
All Die Hards after Die Hard 2, dramatic drop off in quality and excitement.
Die Hard with a Vengeance, starring the great Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
You didn't like it.
Playing the role of
Didn't do it
Angry
for you.
black guy. It's a stretch. Really letting those acting chops, spread out when Samuel decides to take on that role. But no, the first Die Hard and the second Die Hard are arguably the two greatest action movies ever. Like in terms of how good was the sequel, it's about as good as there is. The only other thing I would put up there, and it's more sci-fi horror than it is just action, but Alien and then Aliens was a very good sequel to a hard to follow movie. Obviously, the greatest sequel example of all time is Godfather 2.
I always thought Terminator 2 was pretty damn good.
Terminator 2 was fantastic. Absolutely. And that was also such a leap forward in like digital CGI technology that you would, when the sequel can officially deliver something you've never seen before, it's going to help the sequel out. But it was a good sequel. It's a good script, good movie. James Cameron, it worked. Absolutely.
Yeah, there you go.
There's your movie breakdown.
That's your movie breakdown.
Since we are breaking down movies, I was saving this for my 11 o'clock show, but since we're saying it right now, and I think you'll appreciate this, Larry. May 31st, 1985. Today in 1985, Fletch came out.
I loved Fletch. Are you kidding me? That was one of the great movies. I belly laughed through that thing. It was so hilarious.
I will say that Chevy Chase is as good in Fletch as any actor has ever been in any, like Chevy Chase is to Fletch as Marlon Brando is to The Godfather.
My favorite scene of Fletch is when the Doberman jumps on the windshield and he's like, "Look, defenseless babies." And the dog goes, and then he just drives off. Classic one.
John Cocktoast Tintin.
Yes, what's your name? John Cocktoast Nessman.
It's the
she's been dying for years, but it was very sudden. At the end was very, very sudden.
At the end, it was
that old bird been dying for years. No, I know, but at the end, the very end, it was very, very sudden.
Mitchell and Ness is right. Fletch 2 kind of sucks. Fletch 2 is awful. It's
Fletch
2 compared to the first one. Yeah.
The Bible amusement park. The guy who guy who ran Fletch 2, he sang Zippity Doodah, I believe, in that thing.
They called back to Song of the South, which is like illegal, I believe, at this particular time. Anyway, yeah.
Fletch 2 was not nearly as good.
No.
But not as bad as Anchorman 2. Anchorman 2 was horrible.
The steak sandwich and a steak sandwich. And
yes,
put it on the
excuse me, can I borrow your towel? I just hit a water buffalo. You put that on the Underhills bill. Guys, do we need a refresher course? It's all ball bearings these days. He's like, let me get a look at that engine. And he's like, hey, buddy, it's the engine's over here. I know where the engine is. I was checking the luggage.
6'6", 6'9" with an afro. That's all you need to know about Fletch.
He's like, hey, Fletch, we need that money. We need that money. And these guys got the Publishers Clearinghouse. He's like, good thing. I'm in luck. I'm a winner. Look, I'm a big winner.
Oh, never mind. Didn't win. Anyway, look, it's a day to celebrate Fletch, indeed. Jauan Jennings, congratulations. Glad that they got that deal done. While we're talking wide receivers, this might be a little bit old. I saw it for the first time today. Ravens GM Eric DeCosta gave Ricky Pearsall sort of a thumbs up endorsement saying, he wasn't exactly a hot commodity, but he was one of those guys that they hope to pop on and jump on in the first round, later rounds. He didn't think that he was going to see his name off the board. And he even said, it reminded me of the year where we drafted, just for all the historians out there, the year that we drafted Haloti Ngata. You always want to have a fallback guy. You always think you want a fallback guy, and Dante Whitner was going to be their pick, and he went before us, which shocked us. He went before Haloti Ngata, and so they ended up with Ngata instead of Dante Whitner, who was their plan, who they thought that they were going to get. So just remember, the draft board that you read or have assigned to mean the most to you as a mock, it might not mean that much to any NFL team. And beauties is always in the eye of the beholder. I mean, there might be some guy with a bunch of measurables that you salivate over, but you meet him, you sit down with him, and you're just thoroughly unimpressed by the man he is. And that's a guy who you walk away from. And that's another guy that another team might not really care about, that interview that much. It's just raw measurables and the raw athlete, and we're, going to mold that clay the way we want to. So,
well, I mean, it does make you feel a little bit better that Eric DeCosta liked Pearsall, because DeCosta is one of the good young personnel guys. But then on the other hand, he did draft Rashad Bateman in the first round, and Teelan Wallace, and up until this year, was Zay Flowers had struck out a lot with wide receivers in the first round. I mean, the wide receiver position, I think Belichick said it best with McAfee about a month ago before the draft, when he's like, hey, you know what? Wide receivers and quarterbacks are about a 50-50 proposition in round one. So, you just never know. There's a lot of indications that Pearsall is going to be a perfect receiver to play with Purdy, because he does separate and he does work at the middle of the field. He's got a big catch radius, and Purdy tends to play on time and with accuracy. And there's a chance, at least, I think, when you look at Purdy's skill set and Pearsall's, that they could be a prolific combination. And then watching the mini camp on Wednesday and seeing Purdy connect down the field with Jacob Cowing. Cowing separates vertically, and Purdy loves to challenge down the field, especially in the middle. And we saw Purdy go up top. I don't know if it was a post pattern, or to me it looked like an over route, or possibly a deep cross, but I mean, it was basically middle of the field, and he threw it up in a crowd for Cowing, and he went up and got it. And you're watching that going, wait a second, Brock can throw that pass with pretty good accuracy. Cowing can separate down the field as well as anybody, and then he's got tremendous ball skills. So I think the Niners have added two real receivers that are going to play significant roles as rookies. We'll see.
By the way, Invader 49er says, Andy Reid don't care about what kind of man you are. Hey, look, it's great that Andy Reid is portly and has a mustache and does commercials about donuts and chicken nuggets and shit like that with Patrick Mahomes, because if he didn't have the winning and that lovable guy persona, people would take a look that Andy Reid doesn't even give a shit about the kind of men his own children were. Andy Reid,
I don't know.
There's not an I don't know. Larry, his kids are scumbags.
I know, but you're basically saying, there are people that have huge families where they have 10 kids and 9 of them are great and one of them becomes an axe murderer. It's not always the parents' fault.
No, it's not
just because the kids,
the kids suck.
Don't do what you want them to do.
Yeah, they suck. I mean,
it's just the bottom line is, when you are an NFL coach or an NFL person, general manager, you're spending 100+ hour weeks at the office. So that's, just add that up for years and years and years. And then think about what the average person spends at the office and at home. And then, they're not spending a lot of time at home, and their kids and their families, oftentimes there's a price to be paid for that. But I don't know if it's fair to be like, Andy Reid's not a good dad because a couple of his kids have done terrible things. Is what his one kid was drunk or was on drugs and bashed the back of that car and killed that little girl from Mexico, I believe, and her dog. And I mean, that was bad. And they've had a lot of problems for sure. But is it Andy's? Is it due to Andy and Andy's work schedule? I don't know.
Yeah, be careful, Damon, talking about people's kids, because yours got to grow up one day. Yeah, they do, and kids can screw up. I, really hope that I'm going to pay a little bit more attention to developing the young men in my house than just, I'm happy to say I don't have to spend 100 hours a week anywhere else. And I'm not going to
think about it, though. Think about it. That's what the NFL is right now. I mean, it's like, you're going to make big money and you're going to have great professional success, but there is a price to be paid. If dad is not home, if dad's at work 120 hours this week, somebody's raising the kids.
No.
Either they're raising themselves, they're being raised by social media, they're being raised by a parent, somehow a coach, but you're not there. So this is like largely the reason I got out of scouting, was not that I couldn't do it or that I wasn't challenging or that I didn't love it, is that every guy that I met coming up was on their second wife.
Yeah, dude.
Like, oh, these are my kids with my first wife, and these are my kids with my second wife, and this is my, it's like, so, I only had one mom, one dad, one family. My dad only had one family. My mom only had one family. I'm not judging you, but that's what I want. So I didn't want to have, my first wife, and then, here's my second wife and my third wife. And it's like, so, and I loved it. I loved being on the road scouting football players, but, you know what? If you're on the road scouting football players, you're not at home, playing with your own kids.
Yeah, no, it's a very interesting career to have, but it's a selfish choice, and you cannot dedicate yourself to a home life and dedicate yourself to the football in the way that you need to be successful. It's just, it grinds guys down to the nub. And, the only payoff is a handsome paycheck for a few, and then maybe you won. And then even if you are getting handsome paychecks and winning, you could be a 49er and people will tell you, well, it's still not good enough, no matter what you do. Unless your year ends with a Lombardi trophy, you are a fucking disgrace, and I can't stand you. So, I mean, it's brutal. It's a brutal industry. It is the highest competitive level. It grinds guys down to a nub. It rips families apart. And at the same time, we all keep voting yes on football, like 100%. It's the only thing that gets 100% on the ballot. And everybody loves football. We can't get enough of it. Having said all that,
we get this sentiment as well from Judd or Jut. What does that say?
Judd Shooty.
He says, LOL, Larry, what's up with you? Variety is the spice of life. Oh, there you go.
Solid, cliched advice.
Why stick with one woman when you could have 5? Why have one family when you could have 3 different families blended?
Imagine juggling that. Imagine that. Like the whole, hey, so if you're Mormon in Utah, you get a lot of sister wives. Okay. Like, I can see how conceptually every guy has that, like, 2 women in bed fantasy, and it sounds really good. Imagine they're always there. 2, 3, 4 wives just up your ass, just totally nagging at you, and you have to satisfy everyone. And Did
you imagine 3 wives that lose their keys? 3 wives that left the keys locked in the car?
Dude, this just happened this week.
3 wives that pick off your side view mirror on the garage, pulling out of the garage.
Dude, my wife's a badass. My wife juggles more.
She juggles
at work, at home. She handles, if she's got 100 tasks every single day, she crushes 99 of them. But then she can't find the keys.
Right.
The keys are a problem. I had to call in grandparent emergency to bring the kids to school on Wednesday, because the day before she borrowed my keys and then she went to work with both sets of keys still in her purse. And I said, honey, where are the keys? She's like, oh, they're in my purse. I'm like, well, I need one of those sets.
Yeah.
I can't get them to you. Well, what do I do? I got to take these kids to school and do a show with Larry. Thank you, Liz. Thank you. My mother-in-law came in and swooped in and saved the day that day. Thank you very much.
There you go.
There you go. Here's the Liz.
Raise a glass.
Raise a glass to Liz. So, look, when you were down at training,
and you didn't marry that woman for her memory anyway, right? I mean,
not about keys. No, I really wasn't. Keys. No, the only key I cared about was the key to my heart.
Oh, look at that!
Come on,
that's
come on. Just in case she's watching,
barf in a bag over here for a second.
Just put the goddamn keys in the same place every day as soon as you walk in the door. That
put them on the fucking hook.
Just come on.
God damn it.
Just the same.
Put them on the goddamn hook.
Look at it this way. Guess where my keys and wallet are? Same place every day. Only one place. There's never any place. If my keys and wallet aren't right there, it's because Jack and Ozzy picked them up and walked away with them.
Well, but here's the reason. You want to know the reason that women forget these things? Because when we leave, we put our wallet in our back pocket and our keys in our front pocket. Women put it in a purse. If I had a purse that I was always putting things in, I'd probably lose stuff too. But I don't have a purse. I've got a back pocket and a side pocket. So the wallet goes in the back pocket, unless I'm in Barcelona. Then maybe I might not put it in I might go fanny pack.
Do you go fanny pack? I don't. There's no circumstance.
I think I would. I think I would in Barcelona. If I've heard a lot about the pickpocketing, I hear it's pretty severe. Like they'll take out the razor blade and slice the bottom of your pants and then draw and get the wallet. I mean, it's just they're playing for keeps over in Barcelona.
I don't think they would get me, Larry. I'm telling you right now. I'm a boy from New York. I'm unpickpocketable.
You're going to keep your hand on it and just have a razor cut on your hand. How'd you get cut on your hand? Well, I was holding my wallet as they sliced my pocket.
You can't give them the target of the wallet. You got to just go with the Vegas thing where you just put, you got your ID, you put your money around it, you put it in your front pocket. You don't carry anything in your back pocket in a crowded public place where you got a lot of butts and bumping into and things like that.
There you go. That's one to learn on.
Got to have
one
some
to grow on there.
That fanny pack, dude, I could undo that clip and probably take a whole fanny pack off you. Do you remember how much Rick Barry loved the fanny pack? Rick Barry.
He'd wear them up front. He'd even wear it behind. He'd wear it up front.
It was a dick pack.
More of a gut pack.
Yeah.
I never got into the fanny pack.
You're a real man.
It's a tradition that's unlike any other, but it's been for whatever reason. Fanny packs and me, we just never. We never got together.
No,
never got together.
Can't rock a fanny pack. Can't rock a fanny. I understand the convenience. I'd rather be inconvenienced than convenienced with the fanny pack. I refuse. Couldn't do it. Jack carries around a whole bunch of things. He's got like a little radio, little thing that plays little songs that he slips, clip into the radio. And
sports radio. He plays sports radio.
Yeah. You got a card in there. It says KNBR, and then it's KNBR could use that card, by the way. They could use a little reset. But anyway, Jack's got a little bag that he carries around. He slings it over his shoulder, and it was referred to by, Jillian as a purse. I said, that is not a purse. That's a monkey bag. Because there's a monkey face on it. So it's a monkey bag. Right. My son is not carrying a purse. It's not a European carry-all. It's a monkey bag. And if you're 4 years old, you're allowed to have a monkey bag.
So when are you going to tell him when he comes home from school in the 5th grade and they're like, why do you get a purse? Why do you get a purse? No. What are you going to say?
No, he doesn't bring it to school, but he comes home and he wears it around. It's like, I look at it the way Indiana Jones had a satchel to put all of his artifacts in. This is Jack's artifact satchel, which is a lot more manly way of saying purse. Artifact satchel.
Artifact satchel. All right. It rolls off the tongue just very easily.
It really does. All right, back to football we go. Because you were down there on Wednesday. Did you notice that Feliciano was taking all those center snaps right now? Brendel's got a bulky knee. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, he's got knee tendonitis, and so he's going to sit out the voluntary, and I don't know, maybe everything till training camp. But personally, I think Brendel's the weak spot on the offensive line, and I think they could upgrade that spot with Feliciano. I think they could upgrade that spot with any number of guys. Drake Nugent, Jarrett Kingston, Dominic Pooney. But yeah, I think Brendel absolutely should, the competition for the center spot should be fierce, because I just have that recurring nightmare of watching him just get abused by DJ Reader in the Bengal game. And now DJ Reader's a Lion. And so, now it's going to be, maybe DJ Reader against Jake Brendel in the middle of, the middle of the field, and the winner's going to the Super Bowl this year. So we'll see. I personally would like to see them upgrade from Brendel, who's a little light. He's in the 285 range, and I think they could do better and have a little bit more power up front. Though Feliciano told me last year at his locker that he's better at guard than he is at center. So I think he's kind of built more to play center, but he says he's better at guard.
It sounds like from Chris Forrester that Dominic Pooney's making a good impression. And he's already talking about how Spencer Burford has all of the traits. He just needs to become more consistent. And that just sounds like Burford didn't have the offseason that he really needed to have. Burford should be showing up technique ready, consistent, not just, in good shape, but good mental shape, knowing every element of the playbook and every angle that his coaches are looking him for him to have in all of his blocking assignments. Everybody on the line of scrimmage in the NFL is a hulking man beast. So it really does come down to technique. And if Burford is going to lose his job because he's getting out-techniqued by a rookie who hasn't even played in the NFL yet, man, shame on him. I mean, that's how you find yourself from I was a starter to now I'm not. And man, there is more incentive for guards to play well than ever before. The guard spot has become you can make $20 million a year in Carolina anyway. So,
I mean, that's the right guard competition.
That's not good about Burford. It's really not. I don't like
well,
hearing
I mean,
about him.
Forster said he was the most talented of the guards. I think they've been playing Dominic Puni exclusively at right guard, and Feliciano we know can play right guard. So that's probably the competition this summer. Puni against Burford against Feliciano for the right guard spot, and we'll see. I think Puni's probably the best player for it. I think he's got better movement ability, but Burford is in a lot of ways the physical prototype. He's got really long arms. He's got a great build, but he regressed from year 1 to year 2, and allowing Chris Jones to have a free run at Brock Purdy is not just a mistake. That's in the situation that he made it. It's borderline malpractice. So he's going to have to really step it up, and that's going to be one of the competitions to watch most closely this summer.
Did you get a look at Drake Jackson on Wednesday? Is he still doing individual workouts on the side? Is he out there with the team? What's going on?
I didn't see Drake Jackson out there. I wasn't looking for him, but I don't think Drake Jackson is going to be on the field until training camp.
Okay.
He's still rehabbing his knee.
Let's see. So offensive line battles, got that. Jennings, we did it. This is definitely a direction I wanted to go in before we get to any Chris Sims, Brock Purdy, someone else doubting him nonsense that feels like creeps into every show. Brian Schneider, 49ers special teams coordinator, said basically everyone in this league, there's a 32-team race to figure out this new kickoff. And I don't think the 49ers can claim to be state-of-the-art in special teams other than a very good punting game during the Kyle Shanahan era. Did you, in any element of the training camp that you saw, probably not because it's not all full contact, but did you see them working on the new kickoff? Have you put your eye?
I mean, I have seen them working on it a little bit. I mean, I've seen them working on it a little bit, but obviously they're working on it a lot. And they're still in that kind of fact-finding mode. Schneider's been, in this league for 20 years. I mean, he's a very accomplished special teams coach, and yet this is all new. The angles are different. The speed is different. The distance that they're running is different. So they're just kind of figuring it out. And I mentioned to Schneider, I asked him directly, I said, hey, you guys have virtually every single potential kind of return guy that exists. And obviously you don't know what you're looking for, and you're kind of trying guys out and figuring it out as you go. I go, what does the depth chart look like? And, and he wouldn't answer what the depth chart looks like at return man, but he totally agreed. He's like, I totally agree with you. You're right. We do have every kind of return man because they don't know what they need. Do they want just a sure-handed guy? If that's the case, then they'll promote Trent Taylor and just have him make sure that he catches every ball. If they're looking for, a dynamic returner, maybe they go with Danny Gray and his 4.3 speed. If they're looking for a tackle breaker, maybe they go Isaac Garendo and his 220 pounds. If they're looking for, a veteran, maybe they go with, somebody like a Debo or an Aiyuk or, somebody like that. If they're looking for, are they looking for a receiver? Are they looking for a running back? Are they looking for somebody who's, sure-handed? Are they looking for tackle breaking ability? I think they first have to kind of see it all play out. Schneider admitted that, they have a lot of work to do. I would imagine the week that's going to be really, really valuable is when they have the dual practices in Irvine with the Saints prior to that second preseason game, because, I mean, that's the one time that you're going to have another NFL team out on the field with you, and you're going to be able to rep this thing 10, 12, 15, 20 times,
Right.
as opposed to, how many times does the scenario come up in an actual preseason game, of which there's only 3. So, you know what I mean? I do think that will be a major part of that week with the Saints. Is the Saints will be practicing it, the Niners will be practicing it, and probably sharing information on what they like and don't like about it and how to defend it and so on and so forth. So, it's such a dramatic change that there has to be like a full breakdown of what exactly are we asking the players to do, which players would fit best based on what we're asking them to do. What are the various strategies that are being implemented around the league with these new rules? Is any work better than any other? I mean, I think you're going to see an evolution of this thing from September through the end of the year that's going to be really dramatic in certain organizations, because they're going to say, well, you know what? Some teams are just going to throw up their hands. That's it. We're just going to go with the most sure-handed guy, and we're going to move on to the next play. Other people are going to look to maximize that play and try to have speed out on the field. And then I've heard other people say that, you know what, you really need tackle breaking ability, because it's not like, it's like you're just going to get it, and then all of a sudden you're just going to be running with it. And the distance that the other guys are away from you, is they're not going to be coming at the same rate of speed, because they're not going to be running from as far, you know what I mean? So there's the angles all have to be studied, but they're like every Niners special team player, the George Odoms of the world, the guys who make their living on special teams, they're sitting there with Schneider trying to figure out the best course of action, and hopefully they'll have a vetted plan by the time the preseason rolls around.
Look, we're always fascinated by the guys running with the football, so we're only looking at the new wrinkle in special teams from a return standpoint. Let's look at it from the now you're the team kicking off standpoint. At what point do you start trying out defensive players and safeties to see who's got the best leg, and you eliminate your kicker on the kickoff for another guy who can make a tackle? I actually thought that this was like, oh, Damon, here's something that no one else has thought of. You're going to bring it to this up today, and I bring it up right now, but not before I got to give him credit. Second time he's made the show today. Invader 49er says, I don't like the idea of Moody kicking off, because, if he has to be tackling, it's not worth risking your field goal kicker. I'm not even looking at the risk to kicker. I'm just looking at a better tackler than a kicker. And maybe you're auditioning guys from the defensive side of the ball to who's got the best leg out here, who can handle kickoffs other than Jake Moody.
Well, I don't even know how long of a kick is it. I really don't know. I'd have to see this thing kind of play out on the field and see the angles and see the speed, and then kind of try to come up with something. But I mean, this is where you have to, it's not like you can stop learning. You got to keep learning, especially in the NFL when they're going to change the rules so dramatically. So, I mean, one thing with Schneider is he didn't try to sit there and be like, I got this all down. He's like, this is new. We're looking at an assortment of different plans, an assortment of different return guys, and different ways to defend it. So there's to me, it's like a race to figure out who can figure it out first.
It absolutely is. It's going to be a fascinating thing to watch play out. And, special teams are easily just dismissed in most football conversations as something that should happen automatically to your benefit pretty much all the time. This is going to be the wrinkle, I think, in this upcoming season, along with the drag down tackle rule, which I could just see becoming a fucking nightmare this year. I know that they're trying to make the game.
You're talking about the swinging gate type thing, where you grab a guy up top, you swing your body, the heaviness of your legs into his knee, and kind of cut him down.
Yeah,
you don't that rule change. Yeah, I mean
changed,
that's basically what Jimmy Ward did to Tony Pollard 2 years ago in the playoffs, and knocked Pollard out of the game, and may have beaten the Cowboys based on Pollard being knocked out of the game. I mean, they were a one running back team, and Jimmy Ward took out their one running back. So that was 2 years ago. So yeah, I mean, once again, they're making defense impossible. Well, how do you tackle a big bodied guy if you're 185 pounds? If you can't somehow kind of swing your legs into his legs, how are you going to do that? How's a 185 pound defensive back supposed to tackle a 235 pound running back?
Right, with the rule that says you can't use your body weight to bring this guy down now. It just has to be the most perfect form textbook tackle we've ever seen in a high school game. And that's the only kind of tackle that's being allowed now. It's, again, NFL officials, if left up to them to make a judgment call, we spend countless hours every week talking about how they screw these things up. This is just another thing to screw up, and it happens more routinely than any element of pass interference. I mean, there's a tackle on every football play. There's a tackle on every play. There isn't a pass on every play, but there's a tackle on every single play. So this is going to be, I think, a well-intended rule change that has a negative consequence, a negative outcome, a negative for the league more than it does. It's going to screw up more games than it will save players' knees.
Well, and the NFL's already kind of proven with the PI that they make a change and then make another change if that change doesn't work. They're not hesitant to make changes. If anything, even though it's the most popular sport in America, it's like they sprint to change. Every year they're looking to what they would say is perfect the game, but it's changing a game that's enormously popular. And anytime you're changing a game that's enormously popular, you could always change it to make it worse. And that's what happened with that PI rule. They had the bad play in the Saints-Rams game, and also we have to have PI reviewable. Then they made it reviewable. Then they realized what a circus it was. Then they had the rule on the books for the rest of the year and just never called it. And everybody kind of realized, oh, by the way, they're just never going to call that. And then at the end of the year, they just eliminated it. So it was like, the NFL, it's like, instead of being like, well, let's think about it, and then, when we're totally convinced, let's switch it. They'll switch it. And then if they don't like it, they'll just stop. They'll throw an internal memo saying, ignore the new rule. And then in the offseason, they eradicate it and move on. So it's a weird thing when you think of a sport that's this popular. You don't have this many dramatic changes to basketball, football, or basketball, baseball, hockey. I mean, you don't have the kinds of
changes. Baseball's had a lot of
changes recently, but I mean, we're talking about a sport that goes back to 1870.
Right.
For the vast majority of its history, there's been very little, if any, change. Football, it's like there's additions of changes. I mean, you could literally write a book about the evolution of all these different changes and different rules, because we've literally seen them evolve from what was this, and they went there, and then they went here, then they went there. It's like, I don't know. To me, I would love it if they went like 2, 3, 4, 5 years and just said, you know what, we got a damn good product. How about this for a novel approach? Let's not change anything this year.
Right. And
the same rules as last year.
The next collective bargaining agreement should be, throughout the duration of this bargained time, nothing else changes. I would want that in there if I were a player. I really would. I would. No more changes to the rule book. No more changes to the league.
And it's always against the defense. Let's be honest. They want more points. Offense sells. So they're asking the defenders to be like, 275-pound ballerinas. Yeah, you can't hit them up at the shoulders. You can't hit them beneath the knee. You got to hit them in the strike zone, which is above the kneecap, below the sternum. It's like the game is being played at an incredible rate of speed, and you're asking guys that weigh 280 pounds to be exact with where they hit and how they. I mean, it's just
right. Well,
it's a lot more difficult than you think.
As a defender, it's like, so if I can only hit a guy from here to here, the corresponding rule for him should be he can't lean forward or duck. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, how about the Carson Palmer rule, which is once you're on the ground, you can't engage the quarterback beneath the knee. So then you got guys who are thrown to the ground around the quarterback. Now, did they dive on the ground? Were they thrown to the ground? And then you're at the quarterback's legs, but you can't tackle him. You got to get back up on your feet and then tackle him. I mean, and if you tackle him and you slam him down, if you slam him down, that's a penalty. If by chance your weight falls on his weight, now that's an extra penalty. I mean, it's too much. It's gotten to be too much. We've protected. It's great that Joe Montana doesn't get hit like by Leonard Marshall the way he did in 1990. That's great because we're there to see Joe Montana and not some backup. But it's gone too far. It's gone too far. Now it's like we have people that actually believe that there's quarterbacks today that are like way better than the quarterbacks of the 80s. And the reason for it is because the rules have changed, and every single rule change favors the offense. And then you're like, well, Brady's world's better than Montana. Montana was getting hit by LT and Leonard Marshall. Tom Brady's not getting hit by the greatest linebacker and defensive tackle of his day. And nobody's bouncing on him.
The rule change. The minute Tom Brady's knee went out in week 1, they rewrote that rule book, didn't they?
Right. So it's like, you just got to remember that, there's been several changes in the NFL in our, lifespan as viewers, and almost all of them favor the offense. And almost all of them make it easier to play quarterback than it used to be.
Right. No, the football's not the same. You go watch a game from the 80s. By the time the first quarter is over, that style of play would have had 9 guys ejected from a football game if they did it today. Again, I don't think Ronnie Lott would be able to pay his NFL fines with his NFL salary.
Well, and I mean, I think Ronnie would have adjusted, but I mean, now it's like, think about it. The quarterback used to take all kinds of hits. Now the quarterback can run, and if he slides down at any point and there's any contact at all, it's a penalty. Yeah. And what's really, the guys who really should complain are the athletic quarterbacks, because the guys who are athletes at quarterback, if you're big and strong and athletic, they allow the defense to hit you harder than if you're Drew Brees, Tom Brady, or one of these, guys that's not quite big, strong, athletic.
This would be my number one complaint if I were a Ravens fan. My number one complaint. Look at the way my quarterback gets clocked in the open field. No flag.
He's a running back. Once you run in the open field, you're a running back.
Right. But, man, Lamar is just a guy who gets blown up everywhere on a football field, and no flag. No flag.
Well, how about all the, how about the Lamar play against the Niners on Christmas night where he's running down the sideline and he looks like he's going to slide down, and Fred Warner is like kind of almost like running him off the field without touching him. And then Lamar said, you know what? No, I'm going to put my foot in the ground here and I'm going to cut it back inside and go for another 15, 20 yards. It's like, you know what? That play is advantage quarterback. When the quarterback starts running, it's like if he slides, you can't hit him. If you hit him with any force at all, it's a penalty. And yet he can put his foot in the ground and head upfield like a running back and fight for more yards. But if you hit him, it's a penalty. I mean, we're in an era now where it's gotten too far, too much. We're protecting the quarterbacks too much.
Do you want a story that'll bring us to positive conversation or negative conversation? Which way do you want to go? What do you want?
We'll start with the negative. And we can go to the positive.
All right. Well, that brings us, I guess, then to Phil Simms, because Phil Simms has Brock Purdy 17th.
Chris Simms.
Yes,
Phil Simms was the Simms quarterback who could play.
Chris, needs more arm talent, more spleen. Did he have his spleen removed? I think he did.
I don't know, but he sucked.
Have his spleen removed.
Chris Simms sucked. He played 23 games in the NFL. He made 18 starts. He was 7-9. He completed 58%, 12 touchdowns, 18 picks. He played one playoff game. He lost it. He threw 2 picks.
And look, maybe he wasn't on good teams. Maybe it was a bad situation. But There's a lot of guys who make better analysts after tasting the league than they were players. I'm not going to hold that against Chris Sims, but I guess the only thing
people always say that, but name me a great analyst that had a worse pro career than Chris Sims. Go ahead. In any sport. Who's a great analyst who didn't even have a Chris Sims like career? Once again, Chris Sims said 16 starts, 7-9, 18 interceptions.
That's
in those 16 starts.
You got me going.
I mean, I've heard people say that a lot. Well, you know what? You don't have, and stats. Guerrero's like, I disagree with this, and it's like, yeah. So he's like, just because you're a bad quarterback doesn't mean you're a bad analyst. You're right. Chris Sims is not a bad analyst because he was a bad quarterback. He's a bad quarterback and he's a bad analyst, and they don't have anything to do with each other.
I mean, I don't know.
Name me a good, and he came forward with this one. There's plenty of great analysts who weren't great players. Go ahead. Name me one. Name me a great analyst that wasn't a great player.
I'm thinking.
I mean, or wasn't a very good player. Like, I think Tim Legler in the NBA is the best analyst. He wasn't a superstar player, but he was a damn good player. He was a damn good player. Yeah, he was worlds better than Chris Sims. I mean, I'm thinking about these guys. Dan Orlovsky is like ESPN's primary ex-football player, quarterback, analyst. He played 26 games, 12 starts. He was 2-10. He completed 58% of his passes, 15 touchdowns, 13 picks, never played in a playoff game. He is their preeminent analyst. The preeminent analyst on the NFL Network is David Carr, who was the first pick in the draft, but it was a bust. But there's always people who are like, yeah, there's plenty of great analysts out there who weren't great players. I do agree that there's a lot of great players that don't make great analysts. Like, I think Brady's going to suck. I thought Montana sucked. Bill Walsh, maybe the greatest coach of all time. He sucked on television.
Jerry Rice.
Jerry Rice is not great on television as an analyst. I don't know that he's terrible, but he's not elite by any stretch. But I'm just saying, it's like, yeah, being a great player doesn't make you a great analyst. Being a lousy player doesn't prevent you from being a great analyst, though I can't really think of any.
You know who was
But you could be a bad analyst and a bad player, and that's Chris Sims. Chris Sims is a bad analyst. He had Kellen Mond rated as like very, very highly in his rankings like a year or two ago. Kellen Mond is a nothing in the NFL. So it's just,
Brian Baldinger.
Brian Baldinger was a Pro Bowler.
I guess. Yeah. What, one year?
Maybe one or two, but I mean, a Pro Bowler. Chris Sims never made the Pro Bowl.
No.
I mean, Brian Baldy's a good one, though, because he wasn't a superstar. And a lot of times, if you are a superstar, you make so much money that why would you ever want to be a media person? So there's that. But there's just a lot of people that can tell you, just because you're not a great player doesn't mean you're not a great analyst. Okay, but name me a great analyst that you think was as bad a player as Chris Sims was. I mean, it's just like anything else. If you come out and if all of a sudden, I was a talk show host analyst, I think what level of talk show host I was would be pertinent. I mean, as far as maybe it wouldn't make me a good analyst, but at least it's pertinent. It's germane, you know what I mean, to the conversation. And it's funny because it's like, you're right. Stats, just because Sims was a bad player doesn't mean that he's necessarily a bad analyst. He just happens to be both. He was a shitty player and he's a shitty analyst.
I think he's definitely spent way too much time watching Mike Florio get more traction for the stupid shit that comes out of his mouth than the relevant shit that comes out of his mouth. And that's what they seek. They're seeking attention. They want to have people spread their work fueled by outrage.
Well, and look what Sims said about Purdy. He called him a system quarterback He's an ultimate system quarterback. I mean,
they all are. There's no quarterback that plays outside of a system. It's the dumbest, most casual observation to make. But continue.
It's such a coverall. But then he goes on to say that Purdy's motion is like super slow and super inefficient. Well, geez, for a guy who's not that big, was the last pick in the draft, and is a system quarterback. He's a product of the system. Yet he won at Iowa State, and they went 2-10 in the first year they didn't have him, and now the 49ers have him. And he ran the table as a rookie and went to the NFC Championship game, and then came back as a second-year player and had an incredible year, was in the MVP conversation and made it to the Super Bowl, and has played 25 career games, 21 career starts, is 17-4, completing nearly 70% of his passes with 44 touchdowns and 15 picks. And all you're going to say is he's a system quarterback and his motion sucks and is inefficient, and it's to this and to that. Well, fuck. What if the guy wasn't a system quarterback? What if the guy actually had a decent motion? Would he be, instead of 17-4, would he be 21-0? I mean, instead of completing 70%, would he have completed, 85%? 44 touchdowns and 15 picks? Instead, it would be like, 60 touchdowns and 1 pick? I mean,
look at it this way.
What are we talking about?
What Chris Sims is doing is doubling down on his original premise rather than use any tangible amount of, basically you've got guys who will say, well, show me the stats. They're nothing without the stats. Show me the stats. And then you put Brock Purdy stats in front of them. They're wildly impressive. So then they're like, okay, well then back to something else other than showing me the stats. His stats are not a product of his own doing, but where he is in the system that he's in. We don't hold anyone else's talent against a quarterback the way it's held against Brock Purdy for whatever reason. But that's just the world that they live in. That's the thing. Like to say that right now, having just watched the season we just watched, to still have Brock Purdy in your lower third, middle of the pack tier means that there's no amount of actual football evidence that you're ever going to consider to reform an opinion here.
Well, okay, let's try to reenact this for Sims, okay? Let's bust out the NFL list of teams and let's come up with 16 quarterbacks, because he got him 17. Okay, so Josh Allen. We'll give him that one. We'll give him Josh Allen. We'll give him Aaron Rodgers, even though Rodgers is 40-something.
So he's got Mahomes. He's got Mahomes 3, or is this a list?
I'm just going down the standings here. So they got Josh Allen. Okay, well they've got Rodgers. That's it. I mean, he's not going behind Tua. He's not going behind Drake May or anybody in New England. So that's 2. Okay, so now we go down to Baltimore. Okay, Lamar. I'll put Lamar in front of him, even though Lamar is, Purdy's got 6 touchdowns and 1 pick in the playoffs, and Lamar's got 1 playoff win in like 6 tries. But I'll go Lamar just on the MVP. Then Browns, no. Watson, no. Pittsburgh, no. Joe Burrow with Cincinnati. Okay, so Burrow belongs in front of Purdy. Now let's go down to the next division. CJ Stroud. We'll just, for the sake of the conversation, we'll put CJ Stroud in front of Purdy.
Sure.
Because there's some people that would. Jacksonville, Lawrence, no. Richardson in Indy, no.
No.
Who else is in that division? Is it the Tennessee Titans? No. So there's no quarterback at Tennessee is better. Now let's go to the AFC West. Mahomes, no doubt. Raiders, no.
Herbert, maybe.
Herbert, I'll throw Herbert in there.
Herbert, probably.
He's sub 500, but I'll throw Herbert in there.
Right.
No with Denver. So now we're in the NFC. So now we go Dallas, no. Prescott, no. Hurts, no. Purdy's, I think, outplayed Hurts. Giants, no. Commanders, no. Goff, no. Who else? Packers, Jordan Love. You want to put Jordan Love over Purdy?
Not right now, no.
I would say no.
Yeah,
Darnold, no.
They're next
McCarthy, no. Yeah, the Jordan Love, I'll put Love with a question mark. I'll box that one just in case if it's a borderline. Bears, no. Caleb, no. Tampa, no. New Orleans, no. Falcons, Kirk Cousins. You want to put Cousins over Purdy? No. He hasn't won a lot of big games. Carolina, no. And then you got Kyler, Stafford, and Geno. You want to put Kyler over him? I would say no. Stafford, I'll put over him.
Sure.
Okay, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And if you throw Jordan Love, that's 9.
Well, and
this guy's got 7 more quarterbacks that are better, or 8 more quarterbacks than if you Josh Allen, Rodgers, Burrow, CJ Stroud, Mahomes, Herbert, Love, Stafford, and Lamar. I mean, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You've got 9. He's got 7. He's got 8 more quarterbacks than all of those guys that he thinks are better than Purdy. So, I mean, at this point, the better response to Sims is, all right, name me quarterbacks number 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16, and let's and compare them to Brock Purdy. I mean, come on. Seriously.
Well, look at it.
It's just wrong. I mean, even if you wanted to throw 1 or 2 more, let's say you wanted to throw a Kyler, let's say you wanted to throw a Hurts. Okay. So now instead of 9, now you're at 11. He's at 17.
Well, I guess my whole point here, Larry, is
he's just wrong.
Forget about the numbers game. What are we using to evaluate quarterbacks? Because if you're going to use the last season in statistics, Brock Purdy's statistics are almost
top 2,
are almost peerless. So, okay, you don't want to just look at last year. You want to look at overall team success. Well, overall team success with Brock Purdy, he's almost peerless right now in the NFL.
He's 17-4 and 21 starts.
Let's look at the history of football. There aren't 17 Hall of Famers. There aren't 7 Hall of Famers who have had this much success at this point in their careers than Brock Purdy. So measuring Brock Purdy against the standards of all time, he's pretty damn good. The standards of just last year, pretty damn good. The standards of the first 3 years of a career, he's really damn good. If you're just using the standards of statistics or products of the entire team around you, are you winning or losing? He more than checks that box, is pretty damn good. So what is the demerit that Brock Purdy is being scored on?
He's 6'1" with narrow shoulders.
Little bit tiny, drafted poorly. That's all. Little bit tiny, drafted poorly.
He's not a little bit tiny. I mean, I believe me, I've stood next.
He's not tiny.
You're talking to a guy who has gone into the Niner locker room and talked to Steve Young face to face. This guy's the same size. They're literally the same guy. Brock Purdy is 6'1" and change, 227 pounds. Steve Young is about 6'1 and a half, and he was probably 225 pounds. They're the same guy. Physically, they're the same guy. Drew Brees was this size. Russell Wilson was shorter, a little thicker. But, I mean, it's not like this guy's 5'5". He's 6'1". He's like an inch shorter than Aaron Rodgers. It's just the NFL is so into their prototypes that, like, my God, if you're a little bit on the, don't quite fit the perfect prototype, it's like, this guy's a little bit too short and a little bit narrow shouldered. But I mean, look what he did in college. Look what he's doing now. It's tired. It's tired. And it's like, I made me wonder, do you think Shanahan put Sims up to that? Do you think they're trying to, use Sims to kind of deaden the market for Brock so they don't have to pay him so much? I mean, otherwise, what the hell's going on there? Why is he 17? Why is he 17 on that list?
Well, again, here's what I do know. That son of a bitch got us talking about him. And that was the point of it. I think more than anything else, to crap on Purdy is to invite into attention of a team that commands maybe more social media attention than any other team in the league. So it's a great way to insert yourself into a conversation. Otherwise, you would have been left out of. And so in a stupid way, Chris Sims has won with this bullshit.
Well, and look at the people that are defending Brock Purdy. And then look at the people that are attacking Brock Purdy. Who's defended him? Steve Spagnuolo said he was special. Andy Reid said he was special. CJ Stroud is impressed by Purdy. There's many people around football who are like, yeah, that guy's real. He's the real deal. Players, coaches, and sharp personnel people are like, love him. Who hates him? Nick Wright. Chris Sims,
right? Looking for
people
attention.
that are looking for clicks and attention,
right.
And just traction,
that's what happens.
Traction.
That's what happens. That's what's happening, and we're allowing it to happen by bringing it up. Like I said, we're going to paint a little negatively here right now. I guess my whole point is this:
but it's not shame on us for noticing.
If you really don't like Brock Purdy, fucking get it out there. Double down on how much of a not quarterback he is going into this year.
Right.
Because you were embarrassed by him last year. Double down on that, and we'll now be able to say that you have completely misjudged 3 years of football as opposed to misjudging the first 2 years of football. So keep on betting against him publicly and loudly, and we will know how much you know about football when it's all said and done.
I love America, but one of the things I love about international sports is the idea of relegation. And to me, if you're one of these guys that is so incredibly wrong, like so wrong that it's like dramatic and laughable, you should be relegated to a lower level. You should have, there should be. Right now, there is no penalty for being a jackass. It's the opposite. If you say asinine things, you just get a lot of attention, lots of clicks, and people are like, yeah, you know what? That son of a bitch got people talking. No, that son of a bitch was ignorant. That's really, and there should be, if people thought there was going to be more pushback or more cost to their bad takes, they would be much more circumspect about offering wild takes.
Totally.
Instead, now what happens? We get the opposite. Everybody's just like, oh, you know what? I'll just hang with the group. If the group's saying the guy's good, I'll just say I'll stay with the group. It's like when you tell your kid when he goes camping, hey, try to stay with the group, okay? Try not to go off on your own. And that's kind of where a lot of the media people are that aren't very good. They're just like, you know what? I'll just stay with the group, which I don't respect. But if you're just going to sit there and throw out bogus arguments with no, there's a saying, everybody, it's awesome. You got to have an opinion. Yeah, everybody's got an opinion. How talented you are or lack of talented you are is all based on your ability to support your opinion with facts. And that's the thing. Saying that Brock Purdy is 17th and then saying, well, he's a system guy. And so now you're sucking off Shanahan left and right. And now you're going to talk about Purdy's motion. It's a slow motion and this and that. 17-4, buddy. 70% completion percentage, 44 touchdowns, 15 picks. What if he had a great motion? What would his numbers be then?
Yeah. No, just complaining, you're just trying to silence me. You're just, no, you should be silenced because you're fucking wrong. That's when my early foray here into YouTube, I just said there's some people who are not good at this. And then, a whole bunch of people tried to jump down my throat saying, who the fuck are you? Well, I'm the fucking guy that's right. That's who I am. There's that. There's that. You were the guys that were wrong. I was the guy that was right. But does that matter to you? Nah, because you can get a lot of attention just being wrong about things, I guess. Did you hear?
Yeah, I mean, what about the people that were overwhelmingly like Brock can't play? He's keeping the seat warm for Trey Lance. Lance is the second coming. Blah 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 blah. And now here it is years later, and Brock's been in an MVP conversation and is going to sign for $55 million a year. And Trey Lance had his 5th-year option declined by Dallas and will probably be on his 3rd team in the next year. But you were all in on Trey and said that Brock was terrible. It's like, those people are still out there uttering their opinions, and yet they were.
You can't
horribly,
be wrong about
horribly
the
wrong.
yin and the yang. You're wrong about the yin and the yang. You're wrong about the whole thing. Did you hear about the people down in Fresno who filed a $5 million lawsuit against the Fresno Grizzlies because the Fresno Grizzlies had a ladies' night? Ladies come in for free. And they sued under discrimination. And they filed a $5 million lawsuit against the Fresno Grizzlies. These people are the worst people in the world. And to me, what would prevent this from happening is, okay, so if you sue for $5 million
and you lose, you pay.
You owe $5 million. Exactly. To file a lawsuit.
What is the penalty of a frivolous lawsuit?
Right.
What is the penalty? There is no penalty of a frivolous lawsuit.
What is the penalty of saying Brock Purdy's got 16 quarterbacks in this league right now who are better than him? There's none. Chris Sims will be able to use his bully pulpit and a larger platform to continue to, at this point, spread an opinion that is misinformation that doesn't coincide with any actual played in a game football reality.
He has a right. People will be like, well, he's got a right to his opinion. Of course he's got a right to his opinion. And I have a right to say his opinion's worth shit. You know what I mean? So there you go. It's the beauty of the freedom of America. He absolutely has the freedom to have bad takes, and we have the freedom to tell him he has bad takes.
At some point, what is happening on the field has to matter. That's what's nuts about this. What is happening in the guy's career eventually has to trickle into your opinion of him. The start of Brock Purdy's career dwarfs the vast majority of first ballot Hall of Fame quarterbacks that have ever played.
I mean, you can make a short list. I mean, who started fast in the NFL? Andrew Luck, Ben Roethlisberger, Russell Wilson. There's a couple more. Mike Tomczak, he wasn't a Hall of Famer, but
the king of starting fast is Patrick Mahomes. Everyone forgets
Patrick Mahomes. He sat the first year, but his first year playing was incredible.
It was
Mahomes. But I mean, for every guy like that, there's a Terry Bradshaw, there's a Roger Staubach, there's a Sonny Jurgensen, there's a Kurt Warner, there's a Steve Young, there's a Joe Montana. I mean, even Joe Montana, people think of him as instantaneous success. He went like 3-6 his first 9 starts or whatever. I mean, it's very, very rare that you start playing the game at a high level. So that's why people are so excited about Brock Purdy. It's because he's 23 going on 24 and he's already playing at a really high level. If Brock Purdy has a normal career path and improves as much going from year 2 to year 3 as most players do in that same situation, then he's going to be probably the MVP of the league this year, and the 49ers are going to win a shit ton of games, and they're probably going to go back to the Super Bowl. I mean, if Brock Purdy improves as much as most players do improve from the first to second year, second to third year, he's kind of in between because he didn't have that one-off season. He's going to be not good, not very good. He's going to be fucking great.
Well,
so if he's fucking great, are people going to sit there and finally say, you know what, I was wrong? Or are they just going to keep being, he's not as good as Ryan Tannehill. He's not as good as this guy. He's not, it's like, whatever. But I mean, I would think that if he, there was a lot of people that insisted that he would take a step back from year 1. Why? For no reason at all, just because they wanted him to, because they were that invested in the Trey Lance story. And then when Purdy actually got better in year 2, people were like, wow. Well, almost everybody gets better in year 1 to year 2. And now it's year 2 to year 3. He's probably still going to get better. This is his first full off season working with his receivers. When I asked him about Jacob Cowing the other day, Damon, he was like, he went on, he was glowing in his response. But what it really revealed is that he's repped it on the field with Cowing already. They're putting in the reps. That's how you get better. So I expect Purdy to be pretty damn good this year, to be honest.
Right. Like, I mean, all those who make the most amount of noise in an extreme way get the most amount of attention. That's the way politics is. That's the way sports is. And everything is covered with an instant. I need an instant reaction, and it's got to be a really hardcore take. You know, there's no grace ever given to anyone. We're going to reach our final conclusion on this person a year into their career. Peyton Manning threw 29 interceptions in his rookie year. Peyton Manning
29. I think it was 28, but yeah, that's a lot.
Was it? How much was it? Let me look this up.
I think it was 28.
28.
But I mean, still, it was like 16 touchdowns and 28 picks. You're talking about one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
28 interceptions in his rookie year. 26 touchdowns, 28 interceptions.
26 and 28. Yeah.
If Brock Purdy had thrown 12 touchdowns and 14 interceptions, just two more interceptions and touchdowns. Oh my fucking God. And on the other side of that, he is one of the 5 greatest quarterbacks to ever play, Peyton Manning. So you probably shouldn't try to evaluate an entire career based on a rookie season or early NFL. But I mean, again, the problem is here, Larry, is adults used to cover sports. Adults have been priced out of covering sports. So you got a whole bunch of kids who just have absolutely no concept of NFL history or how the league has worked throughout the years, trying to offer their completely novice opinion in a professional manner.
Well, and it's just we're putting too much. I know the draft is a big deal. I make it a big deal, right? I've been one of the guys who have been making the draft a bigger deal through the years. But your draft position is just the start. It doesn't matter if you were undrafted or if you went with the first pick overall. In this case, we're talking about a guy who went with the last pick overall. Your draft position is just your draft position. It means more than what rivals ranked you coming out of high school as a 3-star, 4-star, 5-star, but it's hardly defining. And it's just a starting point, so it is interesting. I think there's just a lot of people that as the draft becomes bigger, they take your draft position as like gospel, and you should never really get too far above or beneath what they said you were coming out. Otherwise, it rings as not true. But in reality, the old saying, if your premise is wrong, your conclusion's wrong. If your premise was that Brock Purdy couldn't play, then you're going to try to draw these conclusions that he can't play. But is it possible that, guess what? I mean, people just didn't, I think Alex Smith is the best, most interesting guy to talk to about quarterbacks. Why? Because he's been everything. He's been like the best, most efficient quarterback in the league towards the end. He was really, really good. At the beginning, he was like a fish out of water. He couldn't play at all. Couldn't play dead.
Totally overdrafted.
Totally overmatched, overdrafted. Was athletic and smart and didn't know how to play. Taught himself how to play. Well, he talks about the quarterback position. He's like, there's a ton of traits and tons of things that matter. But the things that matter the most, processing, accuracy, and toughness.
Yeah.
And that's what Brock Purdy has in droves. He's got the processing ability. He processes incredibly fast. He makes very few mental mistakes. He's very accurate. The ball comes out on time and with accuracy. And he's tough as all get out. He's a tough kid. So that's really what he's got. And, it's like you can sit there and analyze it beyond that. But there's an old saying, the old coach used to say it to me all the time. Larry, you got to know when to turn off the projector. It's like when you find what you're looking for, turn it off and move on to the next guy.
Right. Well, this is the difference between how men and women shop. Men will find something that they're looking for and they'll buy it. Women will find something that they're looking for and then go look for the thing that might be better than that for another 3 hours before they just buy the thing that they were looking for.
Right.
So I think that's the difference there. Look, 49ers sports talk, I think, sums up a lot of the media pretty well right here. It takes a man to admit he was wrong. Little boys refuse to do it. And there's an awful lot of truth to that. As someone who's raising 2 little boys, Jack knows everything. He's never been wrong about anything. Ozzy's in the same boat. I now realize I'm wrong about stuff every day. So,
well, and you know what? Here's the bottom line. And I've tried to, I used to sign off every show. My sign off.
Oh no, your mic just dropped, Larry. So we can't even hear your sign off. Your mic cut out. Your microphone just died. It's not on. Not on. I can't hear you. Or maybe it's my headphones that popped out. Talk, Larry. No, this is on your end, I think. Can anybody hear Larry? Larry, did you hit mute? Uh-oh. All right. So again, we don't want to sit around just complaining about people who are saying things that, football reality disagrees with. So let's move on to the final, good portion, wrap up portion of the show. If Larry comes back, great. George Kittle was asked to give a state of the 49ers, and David Bonilla of 49ers Web Zone related the quote that he had. And I think George Kittle has summed up the 49ers better than just about anyone who covers the 49ers. George Kittle says, I don't want to say it sounds an awful lot like what I said just in Wednesday's show, but you can watch Wednesday's show and you can hear me say this. George Kittle said about the 49ers, giving his State of the Union of the team, is this. Got a really good roster, great coaches, great players, ready to win. I'd say that's the state of the franchise. Need to win now. Yep. That's it. The 49ers are very well coached. They're wildly talented. They are well built. This is their time to win. Go do it. That's it. That's it. Super Bowl, never guaranteed. I don't care if you're favored in every game. I don't care who your quarterback is, who your coach is, what you've done in the past. There are so many moving elements to every single football season. Chaos can erupt at any minute. Just navigating the entire year without chaos overtaking you is an accomplishment in and of itself. Without injuries ravaging your chances to win, that's an accomplishment in and of itself. And all the stars need to align for even the very best teams and coaches and quarterbacks to navigate a now 17-game NFL schedule. The Niners are as well built to navigate this schedule successfully as any team you're going to find in the sport. And there really is no better pole position or starting position to be found. There isn't. You can't win a Super Bowl in the end of May. You can't. But you can lose a Super Bowl very early on in the year. If somebody gets hurt, something goes wrong, it changes everything. The 49ers are as competent and well-run an organization as you will find in the NFL. And how about this? When they aren't, we'll be the first to let you know. Larry and I will be all over the Niners making buffoonish decisions and clownish choices. We will destroy them when that opportunity presents itself. If all you want to do is destroy the 49ers now, what good are you to the conversation? You have to be able to recognize when things are well built, when things are really well run. Nobody bats 1,000. The Trey Lance thing was a disaster. They're over it. And you got to get over it too now. Sorry. You don't get a mulligan. That one will never not count. And you can always tie what you think is the incomplete of this team back to the draft picks that were sacrificed to draft a player who didn't work out at all. But that's gone now. That ship has sailed. You cannot get stuck on something that is years old and use that as the genesis for all negative opinions that you're going to have about this team going forward. The 49ers are in a situation that is outstanding. M. Patel here in the chat says 30 years and counting. Those are all in the rearview mirror. And through those 30 years, at least half of them were straight up clown show years. Clown show years. They're not a clown show anymore. They're not. Most teams in the NFL are just trying to be like the Niners. The Niners are trying to be like the Chiefs. Most teams are trying to be like the Niners. The only thing they haven't done is win a Super Bowl. That's it. That's all. That's all they have done wrong. So what do you think Larry went? Did he go to breakfast? What the hell is Larry doing? Should I give him a call? Let's see what's going on in the chat. I can't bring up anything. 49er Sports Talk says, you got to be able to substantiate an argument with like data points, even if the data points can be misleading at times, but got to bring more than just words. Yeah, again, at some point, the facts of football have to enter your opinion of anything that is football related, you would think. Larry, you back?
I'm back. Sorry about that.
That's all right. So did you go get a burrito? You reset?
No, I had an audio issue. For whatever reason, the audio popped out.
On with me. I never see your camera freeze with anyone or your audio drop out when you're with anybody else. But with me, I just
I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's going on. But every now and then the audio just switches off and goes back to.
So here's the deal. If you want to keep going 6 minutes from now, you can. But I got to be off the air here at 10:30, Larry. I got a phone call that I absolutely have to make before my show starts.
No problem.
Wrapping up here. I came back and I did the What Was Positive segment while you were working with your audio issues. And it was real simple. George Kittle on the State of the Franchise said what we said, I think just on Wednesday. If all you got is complaints about the 49ers as they're built right now, like you're just never going to be satisfied except when they win a Lombardi trophy, which is literally the point when every swinging dick football fan who's a Niner fan will be like, oh, it was a good year. So if you need that to recognize it was a good year, if only the team that hands the Lombardi trophy had a good year, everyone else might as well be the 0-16 Lions, in your opinion. You have impossible to meet standards, and you're a child when it comes to playing,
well, it's just you're setting yourself up for a lifetime of misery,
right?
If every year. Now this year, I agree, it's Super Bowl or bust for the Niners, but not every year.
Right.
Not every year.
Here's what George Kittle said on the State of the 49ers. He said, we got a really good roster, great coaches, great players. We're ready to win. It's the most perfect way to set up the 49ers there ever could be. You could not do a better job evaluating the entire franchise in that alone.
Yeah.
They're set up to win. They're loaded to bear. They got a lot of talent. They're well coached. The cupboard is stacked. Go win now. Stay healthy. Go win.
No doubt. James Foster has thrown $9.99 into the mix.
Thank you, James.
What does he say? In my opinion, the development of the 49er wide receiver room is in part to what Shanny's
good pal Matt
LaFleur has done in Green Bay, less to do with copying McVay and trying to make Pearsall into Puka. I don't think there's any doubt that the Niners see or dreaming the Puka dream with Pearsall. I don't think there's any question about that.
Mavs or Celtics?
Mavs.
I'm going Mavs.
Yeah, I like Kyrie. I like the way Kyrie's playing. We got this one here as well
from Mike Nolan. Good to see you, Mike.
Mike Nolan. What draft round position does Bronny deserve?
He deserves not be drafted, but
he probably is going to get drafted. The latest mock has him going to the Warriors at 52 in round 2.
I just can't help but notice that we basically have Bronny getting mocked right around where the Lakers now pick. So
huge mistake. I mean, huge mistake. Everybody just sucking up to LeBron.
If the Golden State Warriors do draft Bronny James,
a 5'10" guy that can't shoot and doesn't play point guard,
daddy better be coming with him. That's all I'm going to say. If that happens,
I don't want that.
No, well, you're crazy. You would do definitely.
I don't want that. I don't want that.
But it doesn't matter what you do want.
When you were a Cub fan in the 80s, did you dream to have Tommy Herr on the Cubs? No. He was a Cardinal and you hated him. When you were a Niner fan in the 80s, did you dream of having Russell Maryland and Troy Aikman play with the Niners? No.
Hey, if you were Cowboys, you hated them. Did you dream of having Charles Haley? Not at all. But then you got him, and what'd you do? You won. So there you go.
Charles Haley was great and had a lot left.
LeBron was a top 10 player in the league. He was just all NBA. Same team as Steph Curry last year.
He's literally a car with 250,000 miles. Plus, you're not getting him.
I got to get going. We're not doing this. I got to get going. You're completely wrong about LeBron James. If they added him,
no Warrior fan wants LeBron James.
It doesn't matter. The fan who's going to get.
You're not a Warrior fan, then.
Do you want to have Steph Curry back in the playoffs? Yes or no? If the answer is yes, he's got a better chance with LeBron as a teammate than without him.
I don't care about the playoffs. Everybody makes the playoffs in the NBA, and the Warriors don't care about the playoffs.
Not make the playoffs.
It's about the title.
Everyone makes the playoffs. The Warriors were not in the playoffs, so obviously everybody doesn't make the playoffs.
53% of the league in the NBA makes the playoffs. Right, making the playoffs is not an accomplishment. It's definitely not an accomplishment when you've won 4 rings. You think Steph Curry's going to be excited about making the playoffs and losing in the first round? And that's worth, changing everything about your franchise and kowtowing to some guy? No. All
right. They'd be better with him, that's all. Anyways, stick with this channel to build the new media paradigm for local sports. Thank you, King D-Ho. This is what we're trying to do, man. I'm going to guarantee you right now, there will be more people trying to do what we're doing on YouTube from radio than guys on YouTube thinking, oh, I really got to get back on the radio. That's for sure. I'm watching an industry die with my own 2 eyes. I'm getting industry feedback that it's totally dying in more than just this market. So yeah, we are all in the right place. If you are on YouTube, it's a good place to be. It's great to be here. Larry, I really do have to get running. I got to hop into Miata and take this call. It's a big block cell phone. I'm going to take it. I'm hold it up with 2 hands here, and I'm going to talk. I'm going to look like an agent. I'm going to look like I'm some kind of hot shit driving around L.A. in my Miata and my cell phone, and look out. Here I come.
You got to sometimes. There's calls that you got to take if you're a football guy. and when you're a football guy, there's certain calls you got to take. And if you don't take those calls, well, let's just say you're not quite a football guy.